quoted on this computer and see if that works any better. All right, this is, I think we got it.
Mr. Martinez, have a seat.
Thank you, sir.
You've been very productive your first month here. You do good work.
I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, Mr. Martinez, the reason I called you in here is that I'm looking for an additional manager to oversee inventory and shipping. Carries more responsibility, but it pays more. Sound like something you might be interested in?
Yes, I would.
But before I make my final decision, I'd like for you to work a shift in that department next week. You'll see a list of 17 crates coming in on this sheet. One of those crates will be going to a separate warehouse. Mr. Martinez, when you report the inventory, I'd like for you to report that we received 16 crates.
17 are coming in. But you want me to write down 16?
Yes, that's right. I have another purpose for the extra crate. You are on my team, right? Because I really can't use people who aren't on my team. Tell you what. You think about it tonight and give me your answer in the morning. Make it 10 o'clock. But I'll need to know if you really want this job.
Good evening, sir.
Javi, we need this job. For the first time in a year, we're able to pay the bills.
I know, Carmen, but he made it very clear. If I was not a team player, he did not want me there.
Maybe it's not wrong. It just looks that way. He's the owner of the factory.
He asked me to write down false information, Carmen. He asked me to lie.
When do you have to give him an answer?
10 o'clock.
Javi, if he lets you go, promise me that you will call me. If you don't, then I know everything is okay. Javi, I don't want us to go back.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Martinez. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I don't know yet. Please, have a seat. I trust you've had time to think about our conversation yesterday.
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you decide? Are you on my team?
Mr. Tyson, I am very grateful to have a job here. But I cannot do as you have asked.
And why is that?
Because it is wrong, sir. And it would be dishonoring to my God and my family to lie on that report.
Do you understand what this may do to your job here?
Yes, sir, I do.
Javier, may I shake your hand? Young man, you just gave me the right answer. I've been looking for someone to manage inventory and shipping, and quite frankly, you were the last person on my list. But I need somebody I can trust. Will you take the job? We'll adjust your pay.
I would be honored to, sir.
Good. Then the job is yours. Now, Walter will go over all the specifics with you, and I'll make the announcement to the staff on Monday. Congratulations, Javier. Oh, and Javier, thanks for your integrity. It's rare.
Well done, Javier. After 6 times, I was getting discouraged.
That's one of my favorites of the things that I have that I use there in glass, because that integrity is extremely important. And we're going to be having an exam coming up here in a very short order. I'll let you know at least one session in advance. That will be take home, and you'll have some time to be able to do it. But I'm sure there will be people in this class, unfortunately, that would be tempted to shortcut. And if I find that, you're dead meat. And I'm pretty good at hunting that kind of stuff out. So these are easy. The tests I give are easy if you've done the work. And so I'll be accounting for you all doing good work and to get a good grade on it. So with that, let me just see who, if I've missed, if anyone else has come in. I see Daisy is here. And is Lupe here? No, not yet. Dejan?
I'm here. How's it going?
Okay, good. Let's see. Trish, she always is here. So she must have some reason for not being here. Noel. Abel. And Vanessa. Okay, so we got 5, 10, 15, 20, 4, 6, 10, 14, 15. Okay, we're okay. So group D, take it away. You know, whatever you need me to do, to the extent that I'm capable of doing it, and you may already have questioned that capability tonight, but whatever I can do, I will do it for you.
Wait, can you guys see this?
I'm sorry?
Can you guys?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Hello, everyone. We're Group D. I'm Alejandro,
My name's Daniel.
My name is Yoniko.
and we're doing our presentation on Level 5 Leadership, the Triumph of Humility and Fierce Resolve. So basically, pretty much our presentation is going to center around how we can turn a good mediocre company into a great one, which is, a little bit surprising in terms of leadership. So what is a level 5 leader? A level 5 leader is someone, like it says, who has extreme personal humility and with an intense professional will. It's a bit counterintuitive to, what we deem a leader. When we think of a leader, we think of someone with a strong personality, sometimes or very often very egotistical. But, in this Harvard Business Review, it kind of tells the opposite. It doesn't necessarily highlight a strong ego or someone who loves to show off as this type of leader, or a leader who can take a good company and make it a great one. This type of leadership, it's not the single most important factor, but it definitely is essential when reviewing the companies that were turned from good companies into great ones. This type of leadership came up every single time, so it's very important. Yeah, and so this is just the typical, or just a pyramid to kind of categorize the different types of leaders. At the top you see obviously a level 5 leader. Like I said, personal humility, professional will, as opposed to a level 4 leader who's very effective in his own right, but does have his or her shortcomings. Usually attested to ego or power and whatnot. So The other levels are, are effective leaders, but none of them compared to that level 5 leader. And like I said, just another chart to reiterate what I said. So, there's a lot of balance in between, a lot of humility, but also a lot of professional will, so a lot of grit, grind, and, really soughting results, being ruthless, but, not necessarily showing that uh, outwards, I guess, if you can say, more towards, what they do, more towards the bottom line. They don't have to have this great personality to achieve this ruthlessness, but they still do anyways. And then, so, the level 5 leaders, they display these 3 main characteristics. So the first one's personal humility, which we'll touch on. Second is professional will. And the last one is selecting superb successors. So if you want to take it away, Daniel.
So with the personal humility, it is one of the key characteristics for level 5 leaders, turning a company from a good one into a great one. So what is the personal humility? As it was described, personal humility is a gentle, courteous, and uh, personal humility is the honesty that you, as a leader, do not know everything, but you uh, you don't have all answers. And personal humility also enables you to admit your own mistake or weakness, and open to others' opinion and challenge your own perspective. And personal humility also never take credit. It also always gives credit to those around you. And it is extremely honest, modest, and always put the interest of the company first, and never take credit for himself or herself, for the level 5 leaders. So this is a characteristic or typical person with a personal humility. This is an example, like in interview, the conversation goes like, I hope I'm not sounding like a big shot. This is to show that it is not take the pride or take the the praise on it, but it's always put the personal humility above everything. Yeah. So this is one of the example from the Coleman Mockler. He was a CEO of Gillette, 1975 to 1991. So this is a gentleman. He was described as a gentleman and almost a partisan manner. He always put the interest of the company above all, and he was compared with the Abraham Lincoln, that the same president who put the interest of the nation first.
And then the second point we'll be talking about is professional will. And then, so professional will, level 5 leaders, it just, like Alejandro spoke earlier, they just have a lot of passion and grit. They don't, it's always their way. They're stubborn, and they're persistent. As you can see, they're ruthless. They always want to be excellent. And the thing, how Alejandro said, is they operate quietly, and they're not egotistical. It's just constant persistence. I feel like the great way to describe professional will would be, which would be an example with George Kane. He's a CEO of Abbott Laboratories, and he wasn't out there. His personality was timid. He was kind of shy. What they really said he had was inspired standards, and that's basically mean like he couldn't good wasn't good enough for him. He always wanted you to do your best no matter what. He couldn't stand mediocrity, and in the Abbott Laboratories, the main thing was nepotism, which was if you were part of the family or you had it was like family owned. So if you were part of the family, you were just given positions, not really based off performance. So for 14 years, George Kane hated nepotism. He was firing family members, which his whole idea was you earn your check or you earn your pay. So if you weren't doing really good, he replaced you. And it wasn't because he didn't respect his family or anything. He really wanted the company to do good. And that's how I would say you describe professional will. Example is the best way.
And then, the third characteristic I should say is selecting superb successors. This is a really key factor. Yeah, so they, like I said, level 5 leaders, they pick great successors to lead the company, into or after the CEO has stepped down. Like it says, even if their legacy was forgotten, because their legacy, their own personal fame, power, uh, like a legacy tradition, that doesn't really matter to them. That's not their focus of being the CEO. Their focus is to keep the company running and to keep it great, not necessarily, like I said, get all the awards and get all the accolades. They don't do it for that. They do it for something bigger than themselves, and that's really counter to, or that's really against level 4 leaders, because in the Harvard Business Review, we saw that they actually set their company for failure. So like the level 4 leader would make the company good, but right after they picked their successor, all of a sudden the next CEO was incompetent, and you would see the company fall. And then people would say that, oh, it was the previous CEO that made this company great. So that's how great that individual is, because that type of leader sought their own power and really feed their own ego, and they didn't set up the company for success like a level 5 leader would. And then so they use this example. It's a really great example to really reiterate the concept. So level 5 leader would look out the window to credit others. So, and they would look at the mirror to assign blame. So this is saying that when a level 5 leader wanted to praise, he wouldn't praise himself in the mirror. He would look out the window and praise others, always saying that they were lucky to be in the position that they were because of great management, great employees, great market conditions. But they would never look out the window to blame other people. They would look at the mirror to assign blame. They would always blame themselves and take it upon themselves to make the company great, as opposed to a level 4 leader who would do the exact opposite. So a level 4 leader would look out the window and blame, market conditions, or they would blame other people, other industries, government regulation, etc., as why their company is failing. But they would look at the mirror when they assigned praise. They would look at the mirror and say, hey, this company is great because of me. I'm doing an amazing job, and everybody come look at me. It's all about me. Whereas a level 5 leader never show that kind of ego. And a great example is Alan Wurtzel. He's the CEO of Circuit City. I know this is a really dated example because Circuit City hasn't been around in like 15 years, but mind you, the review was from 2001. But what he did was turn Circuit City from a laughingstock literally to an electronic retailer powerhouse. He never took credit. He always, pointed praise towards his management, towards organization, towards market conditions, and he blamed himself for anything that went wrong with the company. And he showed that with great humility. So in conclusion, our level 5 leaders, born and bred. Like I said, just to kind of conclude, what a level 5 leader is, it takes a mixture of personal humility, intense professional will, and selfless ambition. But this type of leader, it's not necessarily trivial. You can't really read a book to be a level 5 leader. The article kind of describes it in a binary sense. Either you have it or you don't. But what a level 5 leader does show is, they think of the bigger picture. They don't put themselves first. They put the company first through great humility, but also a ruthless attitude to make the company as great as it could possibly be. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Very well done. Very well done. Got a number of things there that are, here we do this. Give you a positive reaction on that. I like the things that you had to say. Mr. Wurzel with Circuit City, they were a great company. When they ended up failing, it came very quickly. It was about, I think about 5 or 6 years ago. But I don't think his reputation suffered at all as a result of that, because he was a very effective executive, as you pointed out. I voted on Tuesday, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I voted for Trump because I think he had great policies. He's had great policies and has done a lot for America. And I know he loves America, loves the U.S. But I could see you didn't mention his name, but I know where you would put him in that continuum, that he is all about himself. He cannot see other people. And I think that that is something that probably cost him a few million votes. But you did a great job with that. And I'm glad I have that article in there. I think it's a very worthwhile thing to know about. So well done. Does anyone else have any comments on that? Come on, kids, get with it. Because I'm now going to call on you, because we're going to switch over now to IKEA. And that's our discussion for this evening. And let's pick somebody. Deshaun, why don't you kick off our discussion about IKEA with any particular thing that you might have noticed as you studied that, and as you reflect back on what we talked about, I guess it was last Tuesday, not last Thursday rather.
I thought it was interesting just reading it like right in the beginning after it talked about how the company was how they got started and their sales, and then how he was at the furniture the sort of like the furniture marketplace, and other companies were saying, you know, don't sell to them. Like I thought that was kind of weird just seeing that right in the beginning, just based on how they had sold some stuff previously. It seemed like other people kind of felt threatened.
Well, do you think that would happen here in this country? I mean, he was in Sweden where that happened.
Just like people not wanting you to sell to other people, like other businesses.
Yeah.
I think some people would feel it when they like go out, and I think it would happen 100%. I think it would happen.
Yeah, this is one of the things that isn't in the textbook. But when you go to try and break into a marketplace, the other guys are always going to do everything they can to try and stop you. You know, if you think back about some of the things we talked about with Southwest, and incidentally, I'd like to have you open up, all of you open up your window shade so I can see. I'm going to see who has gone out to get a sandwich rather than sitting here and working through this with me. But, you know, we said with Southwest that part of the reason they picked the place they started in Texas was because they knew the lawsuits were coming, and this is a bunch of lawyers. And so they were preparing themselves to go right to court from the moment they started to get in the marketplace. And there will be companies that'll say, Hallmark Cards, for example, does not like you to have anybody else's cards on their on the stores that say Hallmark on the front of them, and those are franchise dealers. But they'll refuse to sell you the cards if you carry somebody else's line along with theirs. And they're a big powerhouse in greeting cards. Another one is a company called Hearts Mountains. And they make, do any of you have a bird in your, as a pet? And again, I'd like to have everybody open up their windows so I can see that you're there. Well, if you had a bird as a pet, one of the things you might buy is those little pieces of, I don't know what they are, but the birds sharpen their beak on it. It's It looks like a bar of soap, but it isn't soap. And they also have particular bird seeds for different kinds of birds. Well, Hart's Mountain has a reputation for sending their salesmen in, and if they find your product on the dealers' marquees or in their on the shelves, they'll come in and mess up your display, and they really get rough and tumble. So there are people out there like that, Deshaun, want to mess with you. So what do you think about his strategy for getting around that? Somebody take and describe that for me. Thank you, Deshaun.
Professor, this is Crystal. Didn't he start like to expand outside of Scandinavia?
I'm sorry, say it again because I couldn't, the words got mixed up in my head.
Sorry, it's because my internet connection is really bad right now.
I've got internet problems in my head too. So it could be either one.
Didn't IKEA first started to expand outside of Scandinavia?
Outside of what's the last word?
Scandinavia? Is that how you pronounce it?
Scandinavia. Scandinavia.
Sorry, yes. And didn't they like use those like marketing techniques in order to like draw new customers to their business?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I got from the
article. He went to print ads, which were big deals back in the 40s. I have always been kind of interested in him because he started this up in the middle of World War II. And that's probably something you've heard about, but I was born in the year before he started that company. So I lived through part of World War II, and I do have some memories of that, but it seemed very unusual to start up a business that was not associated with the military during the middle of that conflict. But he did it.
I would like to add on to that. I think another strategy that they did was how fast they decided to expand. So not only in like store openings, but also having their catalogs in 32 different languages. Mm-hmm. And they all did this within 10 years. So
there's a good market in catalog sales.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity there even today.
Didn't they also like develop like a supplier network?
Yes, they did. And where did they get their suppliers? Or how did they go get them? And again, I want to ask all of you.
Wouldn't it be like from different markets?
Well, yeah. When you say different markets, what do you mean by that? I think I know what you mean, but give me a couple more words to identify that.
I know a part of their supply chain they got was when they didn't have enough production to meet the demand. So Comprad, he flew to Poland and he secured a deal with the Polish suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
So he could further increase his production to meet the demand.
Yeah, he cut some deals with, I guess that was even before the Iron Curtain fell. That was in 1998. And I kind of wish I had done it. I had thought about taking my whole family over to Germany to watch that happen, because it was a singular event in my lifetime. And none of you were even born then, I don't think. But we really didn't do much trading at all with Eastern Europe. And I keep wearing my USA glasses as I look at this case. But Scandinavia is not the US. That's a different market. He said some other things about his relationship with those dealers. that I thought was very interesting.
I know when his suppliers were facing hard times that he would often help them out, you know, maybe give them extra money per chair, or not chair, but whatever they were supplying, they would, he would back them so they would still be in business.
Yeah, and you know, with the article that Group D gave, one of the things I was thinking about was General Robert Wood, and he was a brilliant strategist for Sears. And as Sears back in the day, now Sears is in the process of being annihilated, but back when my wife and I first got married, 1963, one of the pinnacles of success would be the time you could get a credit card from Sears. You know, you could display that the same way you would an American Express Gold card or Platinum card. And in setting up their supply lines, Josh, what they did is they actually finance companies. So the Whirlpool line and or the Kenmore line of refrigerators, Kenmore line of refrigerators, was developed for a company down in southern Indiana, in Evansville, right on the Ohio River. And they were making parts for train engines and for the railroad industry. And their market had kind of really fallen apart. And Sears came down to him and said, look, if we financed you, could you make a different kind of refrigerator? Because at that time, there were a lot of people who were moving in from rural areas into the cities. They didn't have a whole lot of money, but they never had a refrigerator. In fact, what they'd use is an ice box, which is a wooden kind of a box. They put a big block of ice at the top of it. It would keep things cool for a couple of days. But that was how that line of goods came into being, because they took the bit, created the smaller refrigerator, but uniquely for that particular category, and build it into a great product line. And they did that repeatedly. So that's the process that Ikea was using too, although Ikea was a much smaller entity than Sears was. But the other reason I mentioned Robert Wood is because one of the things in that level 5, you said a great leader will plan his successors. And that was the point at which Sears began to fail, because Robert Wood, who was the president from 1925 to 1950 and served as chairman of the board until about 1970, made no provision whatsoever for a successor. And the company really floundered after that. And as I said, they may not be in business by the time Christmas comes. They clearly are life support, and very little chance. There's no chance that they'll survive. It's just when they pull the plug. So what were some of the other characteristics that you saw?
IKEA did not allow like the other competitors to what is that called? Like to copy their catalog?
Yeah, they protect their intellectual property.
Yeah.
And catalogs are very important because they'll allow you to display things that people can't touch and feel. So this is one of the key things in marketing on the internet, is you have to have a way of displaying things in some kind of an online catalog so people can visualize what the item that they want to buy is like without being able to touch it. And this was, Circuit City went out of business, as I said, about 5 or 6 years ago. The guy who stepped into the big position after that was Best Buy. And what Best Buy has seen over the last 4 or 5 years is the challenge of Amazon. And what people were doing was going down to Best Buy after they picked out what they wanted to get from Amazon, and they wanted to check it out before they bought it. So they went into Best Buy, and the term that they use is showrooming. The people would go in, look at the products on the floor, pick them up, test them, see how they work, then go home and buy it on Amazon because it was cheaper. And what Best Buy had to do was they switched to the policy. If you bring in an ad that shows that's the price, we'll match it no matter what. So in effect, what you're doing is the same thing with an effective catalog. If you've got good drawings in there, good presentation on it, it is strong intellectual property, and they were going to try and maintain that. What are some of the other things that you saw when we talked about it a week ago about that company? And how does it relate to what we see for strategy? Because that's what this course is called. AJ, are you there tonight?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, didn't see your shining face. And
Oh, because I have kind of a cold, so I'm
okay.
like sneezing every couple of minutes.
Okay, good. All right, well, it's not good, but sorry. Because usually you're right in there.
Yeah, I just like I'm sneezing every couple of minutes. I don't want to sound loud or anything. So.
Okay. So what are some of the things that we looked at in strategy? What was their value proposition? What trade-offs did they decide to make? How do they make things fit together? How do they build continuity? How did they tailor their value chain differently?
What about their products, how they try to make annual improvements, and also that they release between 2,000 and 2,500 new products each year to keep the variety going?
And what they do besides issue 2,500 new products each year?
Improvements to existing ones.
Well, yeah, but there's a third thing that they did. If you've got that report in front of you where you see the 2,500, it says something else about it. Alejandro, I won't let you go. I want you to tell me. Are you looking at the report?
Yeah. Was it also that they removed some of their products and kept it between 9,500 and below?
Yeah. So that's one of those things that we said that Drucker indicates you need to have a policy of abandonment, that you got to take out the things that are not working for you. You have to make a conscious decision to do it. And one of his devotees is the guy who ran Procter & Gamble. And he had set up over 100 product lines in that company to eliminate them because they weren't working for him. So there's this guy is Comprod at Ikea is following what Peter Drucker said. And on one of my slides, I said, you can't add something until you take away something. And it's just like your attic at home, or when you get a home and get your family going, your spouse is always going to tell you, don't bring any more stuff in here unless you take something out. Okay, well,
I have a question.
Yeah.
And what would be the best way to go about getting rid of a product or a product line? Would you just base it off of sales?
Well, you got to look at there's 2 or 3 things that come to my mind. Obviously, sales is one of them. Gross margin is another one. Does this product meet our margin needs? Can we substitute things that have a better margin? And then the third thing was, does this fit in with some other product where I don't have an option? For example, if I were going to sell automobiles, I've got to have the aftermarket parts. So it doesn't make any difference whether you are making a small margin or a large margin. Obviously, you do make a large margin with aftermarket parts on an automobile. But if you did, even if you didn't, that would be kind of an obligation to your customers to have that product available. And Alejandro, one of the things you could do at the end of the day, just say, look, we're going to add so many products. We got to eliminate that many as well.
And also depends if you can ask your customers like what would they want for the product, because maybe you don't have to eliminate it, but you can change it in some way that is more like, let's say like you're selling a desk and they're like, well, I will buy the desk if they had drawers. Now if you can actually add the drawers at a relatively low cost, then you might be able to increase the sales. And then you can, kind of put that in the scale and be, can I add the drawers and then still make a profit after the fact, or if this is just a lost cause and then I'll just remove the product altogether.
Well, AJ, you're absolutely right on that. That's what you've got to go ask the customers. You can't assume what they want. You have to go out and ask them. But if they said that they wanted drawers, you then have to evaluate, how does this impact my production capability? Will this increase my cost? And there are other people, are there a lot of other people that don't want drawers? They don't want to pay for them. So you have to bring that into it as well.
Right, but with IKEA, it's modular. So like when you select the product, you can select, I want the option with the drawers or without the drawers. And maybe based on that, you could select, well, if you get the drawers, is an extra cost, but then we'll see and then check our production value. Because some of the drawers, what I noticed from IKEA, they're interchangeable, right? So they have the same type of drawers, they just use it in different type of desks. So maybe they could just add the option and see if that increases sales, if that's what the customer wants.
Yeah. Well, you're talking the right way on this, that you need to consider what the customer wants, but you also have to look at the implication. How does this affect my bottom line?
Right. Yeah. If it's too much, then it just might as well just bench it and then do something else.
Let's see. Did you have any reaction to their coming to the U.S. with their stores? There was one thing there that really caught my attention.
What was that question?
They made a decision to open in the United States, and I could remember back far enough ago, AJ, that they were up in Canada, but they didn't have anything here in the U.S. What was different about the U.S. market versus other places around the world?
The US had different proportions, like sizes of tables and measurements, and people, like say for beds, I think it said it was measured in centimeters or something instead of twin, king, queen, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. In almost every aspect, the dimensions of an American are different from those of other people around the world. Part of it is nutrition, and in Japan, after the war, there was a significant height difference between the Americans who went over to Japan and the people who lived there. But within a generation, because they've gotten so much more nutrition in their diet as they have recouped from the war, that the Japanese are now growing substantially taller. If you ever go down to San Diego, there's a couple of ships that they have in the harbor there that go back to the 1800s, and try and walk through those without hitting your head. Those people were a lot shorter than we are. And so that meant an entirely different marketing approach they had to take to get into our market. Is it worth it? Because it requires compromise of their basic strategy.
Right, but then you do not a SWOT analysis, but you do a cost benefit ratio, and then you will see, well, if we add some stores in here, but then this is the potential market that we can actually get, and if there's a substantial profit in there, it might be worth doing a dive in.
Yeah, but it has proven to be worthwhile for them. However, it's the idea of compromising your strategy. Am I willing to take that hit? Because it's going to make a lot of changes in the way you present your products.
Right. But then what's the degree of impact? Like if it's not that much and it's just something that I could, tweak here and there, and then the promise of profits is greater than what I'm willing to lose, then that should be fine, right? And we see all the companies do that. Like,
you were fine up until you said the last word. Right. that
Yeah, well, yeah.
you're saying you making that assumption, and I appreciate that you are. But you know, there was there's, I guess this is a mythological thing, but there was a great king who always had somebody who would whisper in his ear, "This too will change. This too will change." So we, I don't know why I even said that. I now can't put it together, but it's we want to keep faith with our basic strategy that has worked, and be careful not to compromise it. And,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way I see about how I'm running the business strategy game. Like sometimes you have a strategy, but then sometimes you have to make adjustments. And then even if you want to go into a market, you have to see, well, is it worth me joining into this market and then foregoing the customs price that I have to pay otherwise?
well,
And then
you're again coming back to an economic decision, but there is an overlay on that is a strategic decision. Does this compromise my strategy? It looks like it's good, I'd make some money with it, but if I do that, do I open the door to somebody else coming in to my market and sideswiping me?
True.
So, and I don't have the right answers on that. You know, it just is, that's the nature of business. It's the nature.
Yeah, but I mean, in IKEA case, we can, because we can look back and, you know, hindsight is 2020, we can see that in their case, for, you know, kind of affordable furnishing, they're still, I don't want to say the best, but they're the most known. So they have a pretty big market share. So in this case, in their particular case, it was a good idea, even if they had to tweak their strategy a little bit.
Well, you know, when they came into the U.S., they had a store over on Sierra along the 10. And that was opened up, and boy, it closed within about 2 years. And I never was able to figure out how they could miss the mark that much. But that was obviously one of those places where the market was different from what they were used to.
Yeah, but I mean, they obviously went back, reanalyzed, and then came back with vengeance, right? So.
Well, yeah, but they also have this idea. There's an idea that they share with Southwest Airlines, and somebody said something about it right at the beginning of our discussions tonight. It could have been you.
Regarding what exactly?
Well, it was in regards to growth.
Oh, they had contained growth.
Oh, that was it about them expanding quickly?
What's that?
Was that expanding quickly?
Yeah, that's what Veronica said, yeah.
And they were expanding what? Too quickly or quickly?
No, just quickly.
Okay. Well, yeah, but it also came out, are we going too fast? And that was an issue that Southwest has had to deal with. Are we growing too fast when we go in and buy a company that might be equal to 30% of our total revenue? If we buy some little podunk airport with 3 planes and a very limited schedule, that's no big deal. But when we go after something like Air Air, that's a pretty big chunk to swallow. So that's something that we have to consider as well. And I don't have a right answer for that. And I doubt if you have a right answer. And it really doesn't make any difference whether you got a right answer or not. Part of the thing is we've got to ask the question. We'll come up with our own answers once we've asked the right questions. Now, did you notice how some of the things that they use, and I'd like to have other people, some more of you get involved in the conversation here, but you notice how some of the distinctives that they had, it was almost by happenstance that they discovered some of the characteristics that they've used. Can you write 5,000 words about this company without getting a little bit farther away from where we are in this conversation? If you huh?
I'm just gonna add something to the conversation because, like, on my entrepreneurship class, it's kind of the same. It's like how I got the great idea, right? And usually it's like happenstance. Most of the great ideas happens because of chance meeting or something happened that day, and you looked at the problem a different way, and then that kind of led to innovation or just thinking outside the box for a minute and made you diversify your product in a way that expanded your company. But it most of the time is because of chance, not exactly because you're going from the start.
There's no question about it, and I'm going to be. I'll send you out a list of assignments on what I want you to read from the How You Measure Your Life book. But that's something that he talks about in his career, that there were happenstance things that caused him to alter some of his basic strategic directions. And that is referred to as an emergent strategy. Now, AJ, in the area of entrepreneurship, if you look back at these last 9 months, there have been more opportunities created than I can remember in my working career. There are so many new things, and all you have to do is go out there and look. And because the market for so many of these things is so new, there's lots of opportunities to get in and grab a position, even though you got a faulty product.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what is desperation breeds innovation, right?
What's that?
The saying that desperation breeds innovation.
Yes, that's right. And I heard another thing that I thought was pretty good the other day. It said, he said, failure is free if you fail quickly. So, go at it with both feet. If you see it's not working out, get out of it and go on to the next deal.
Right.
I never learned that.
Well, and here's like fail quickly and often. That's the.
Well, I'd say that's equally good, but that was my one of my problems, and I had many of them in my career. But one of them was the failure to fail quickly. I keep on trying to breathe life into a corpse, and all that does is just waste more money.
Yeah, that's why the current strategy, at least that we're not waiting down, but we're kind of diving into is instead of jumping right into a product, ask around, do a survey, ask potential customers, is this a problem? Is this a solution for a problem that you're having? And how powerful is that problem? Is it a headache or a migraine? Because people tend to pay, like they don't care how much you pay for a migraine to get that problem solved. But for the headache, they're a little bit more conservative in how much they're willing to pay. So.
Well, it's interesting because in entrepreneurship, one of the ways you discover a problem is because of a pain point. And boy, a headache is certainly a pain point. But we get
yeah. So you can have but then there's different headaches, right? Because you can have, and then I like the sample they use in the book. It's like you have a dog. So now when you take the dog outside, the dog has to poop. So you can clean the poop, and then you can either buy, a custom poop cleaner, whatever, or you can take a bag. Now that is a headache, but it's a simple one. You grab a bag and you throw it away. But let's say the dog gets sick. Now you have to take it to the vet, and then you don't care how much that's going to cost you because that's a migraine. That needs to be fixed at the prompt.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. Well, I looked down here at my watch and we are out of time. Of course, I frittered away a good bit of time when I didn't get things going the right way. So let's break off now. And tonight, I did get I believe I got the last lecture out onto your website. But I'll give you a list of the pages I want to have you read to get us through the Christensen book. And we're going to spend a lot of time on that. And a lot of it deals with the area that we were, that you saw in that movie about your personal integrity and your integrity as a business person. So I'm going to let you go. Somebody, oh, I guess it was Angel. She's very distinctive with her sunglasses on. She's already taken off. So I'm going to let you go.